Hiya! Welcome to Dia. Synthis. I adore slice-of-life Pokémon content. Seeing these creatures assist their trainers with day-to-day tasks reflects my own experiences as someone with a service dog, and this got me brainstorming about which Pokémon would make good service animals. So let's look at some support tasks and discuss which Pokémon could pull them off. When I mentioned service animals, the picture that came to your head was most likely a guide dog, which have been used by visually impaired people for centuries. Guide dogs are trained to help their handlers avoid obstacles, locate objects, and note changes in elevation, such as stairs, curbs, or the edge of a platform. An alert Pokémon that takes its duties seriously is what we're looking for here, as there's a ton of room for someone to get hurt if the Pokémon gets distracted or slacks off. So, how about Herdier? It's literally named after its drive to guide others. Its Pokédex entries highlight this Pokémon's intense loyalty, intelligence, and obedience, all of which are key traits for any prospective service animal. Herdier's pre-evolution can come with the ability Pickup, which is helpful for any mobility-impaired trainers who struggle with holding onto or retrieving items. Some disabled people have trouble reaching above a certain level, be it due to their height, arm mobility, or being in a wheelchair. Tall, floating, or flying Pokémon could help their trainers out with that, and even shorter Pokémon could use moves like Vine Whip or Psychic to get things down from high spaces. Some people have service animals to lean on for balance assistance, and while technically any Pokémon of a certain size and weight class could help their trainer out with this, I think Boldore is an especially good pick due to the stability its three legs provide it. Similarly, most land-dwelling Pokémon of a certain size could push or pull a wheelchair, and, depending on your disability, some Pokémon could even become your wheelchair. We've had rideable Pokémon since Red and Blue, and the list of those that can carry you around is constantly expanding. I feel like Go-Goat would be especially good at getting disabled folks around, as they can sense their trainers' feelings and have partnered with humans for over 5,000 years. If you want to stay in your wheelchair but are tired of coming across obstacles, Pokémon with certain elemental abilities would be able to fill in cracks in the sidewalk or create a ramp in places that lack one. If getting yourself from one place to another is hard for you, even with a wheelchair, consider getting a Pokémon with the move Teleport, such as Abra or Elgyem. In the games, Teleport takes people to the last Pokémon Center they visited, which would make it helpful in a situation with a medical emergency. No more waiting for the ambulance to arrive, I'm coming to you! Many disabled people use physical therapy to help alleviate their symptoms. Humanoid Pokémon, thanks to their similar physical structure, would be capable of demonstrating different physical therapy exercises and assisting trainers with performing them. Fighting types such as Machop and Makuhita are known to love all kinds of exercise, making them excellent physical therapy buddies. For people whose regiment incorporates a lot of yoga, Medicham and Meditite are the perfect Pokémon to help you out. Depending on what conditions you have, you might be affected more in certain limbs than others. So consider finding a Pokémon that specializes in the exercises that you have to do for that part of your body, such as a Raboot or Tsarina for folks who do a lot of work with their legs. Sometimes physical therapy is done in water, but not all disabled people are able to swim on their own. In such situations, Pokémon like Buizel or Azumarill could help keep trainers afloat while they do their exercises. I, for one, would find physical therapy far more enjoyable if I could do it with a Quagsire. There's also the massage aspect of physical therapy, which is used to alleviate pain and stress. This can even be seen in the Detective Pikachu movie, when the titular character performed one on Psyduck to treat its headache. This is another role that humanoid Pokémon, or at least those without blades for hands, would be good at. I'd like to highlight the Croagunk line in particular, as it specializes in moves that involve jabs and implying pressure. Plus, its Pokédex entries say that the toxins in its finger can be used to treat lower back pain. Another helpful frog can be found in Croagunk's cousin, Seismitoad, whose Shield Pokédex entry explicitly highlights how great its vibrations are for massages. Some Pokémon, such as Quillfish and Doduo, can even learn a move called acupressure, which is another type of massage that involves targeting pressure points on the body to alleviate pain and nausea. This isn't a massage per se, but many service animals specialize in what's known as deep pressure therapy, DPT for short. This involves the animal putting its weight onto their handler, which can be calming and improve one's mood as it invokes many of the same sensations that a hug would. Pokémon like Ghastly or Flabébé wouldn't be a lot of help here, since they barely weigh anything. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Pokémon like Palossand and Torterra who would break your bones if they did DPT. I know Snorlax looks cuddly, but it weighs 460 kilos. That's over 1,000 pounds. All those little guys in Pokémon Sleep might think they're safe snoozing on its stomach, but if that Snorlax rolled over, spines would snap. For this task, you're probably looking at Pokémon that weigh somewhere between 30 and 50 pounds, with variations in size and weight depending on the trainer's preference. Consider the difference between Dragonair and Tortuga. Both weigh the same amount, but are different sizes. Dragonair is over 4 meters long and has a very long body, helping it distribute its weight upon you. Meanwhile, Tortuga is much more dense, so if you had it in your lap, you'd be taking all of its weight there. Again, it's up to preference in this case, but some Pokémon I think would be especially well suited for this task include Quilava, Darkspun, and Bidoof. Cuddling with Quilava would be extra nice, as its fire typing basically makes it a living hot water bottle. Applying heat to aching areas can increase circulation and relaxation in them, which would make naturally warm Pokémon helpful for folks with chronic pain or arthritis. Ice can also be used for pain relief, serving as a short-term anesthetic that reduces inflammation and swelling. Pokémon with a cool touch, such as Snorunt or Snom, could be living ice packs for trainers that frequently experience such symptoms. However, changes in temperature aren't always beneficial to disabled people. In fact, we're disproportionately affected by extreme temperatures and at greater risk during events such as heat waves and cold spikes. Some accessibility aids become unusable in certain weather, keeping those who need them trapped inside. Other people's symptoms can be triggered by changes in temperature, and some medicines, such as antipsychotics, have side effects that prevent people's bodies from being able to cool down. While our world's service animals can't do much to help with this, the world of Pokémon is far more fantastical. Some fire types, such as Colossal and Macargo, are hot enough to heat spaces simply by being in them. Water, flying, and ice-type moves could be used to cool trainers down, Exeggutor can serve as walking umbrellas that block out the sun, and some Pokémon have moves that can change the weather entirely, or abilities that eliminate its effects upon their allies. Lastly, Pokémon with the move Dig could clear paths through the snow, making space for wheelchairs and rollator users to get through. Wheelchairs and rollators are examples of accessibility aids, devices that help disabled people navigate the world. Plenty of smaller aids, such as inhalers, EpiPens, or blood glucose monitors, are light enough that any Pokémon could carry them for their trainer. Some accessibility aids assist with augmented and alternative communication, or AAC for short. AAC refers to forms of communication that don't rely on speaking words with one's mouth. It includes sign languages, text-to-speech generators, communication boards, and much more. AAC is used primarily by folks who have difficulty speaking, be it due to a psychological process, such as selective mutism, or a physical one, like a stroke that's made it harder for them to move their mouth. Depending on the method, some people can communicate through AAC using only their eyes, or in the famous case of Stephen Hawking, a singular muscle in their cheek. Plenty of Pokémon could be used as AACs. Smeargle could illustrate communication cards for its trainer, there are psychic Pokémon that could communicate through telepathy, and Mr. Mime could definitely learn sign language. Pokémon such as Chatot and Squawkabilly are able to repeat phrases, so if you trained them to associate different terms with different signals, they could provide some basic sign language interpretation. Dedenne can send and receive messages through electronic waves, so a trainer that struggles to speak could use these to communicate with them instead. And speaking of electronic communication, just look at Rotom. We've seen it talk through a Pokédex, so wouldn't it be sweet to have a Rotom text-to-speech device? For trainers with hearing impairments, it could work both ways and describe what others are saying. Folks with such impairments sometimes have service animals that are trained to alert them to certain sounds, such as doorbells, timers, ringing phones, or the handler's name. The animal alerts their handler using a physical cue, such as nudging or placing a paw on them. These are all tasks that any Pokémon with clear hearing could do, but I want to shout out Roggenrola in particular. This Pokémon likes to walk in the direction of the sounds it's hearing, and topples over once the sound is complete, providing visual cues to where the sound is coming from and whether it's still going. Most of the deaf people I know use vibrating alarms instead of the audible ones that hearing folks rely on. The Pokémon Temple is known to communicate through vibrations, so they could easily give their trainer a buzz if they think that there's something up. Plus, the Temple line are known to love the vibrations of music, just like many deaf people do. As for folks who are hard of hearing, which is different from being deaf since they can still hear sounds so long as they're above a certain volume, Pokémon such as Obstagoon or Exploud would be able to cross that threshold easily. Folks with hearing impairments tend to get pretty loud, since they can't always measure their volume or tell how it's affecting others. While some Pokémon would find this overwhelming, ones with the soundproof ability, such as Voltorb or Jangmo-o, would be immune to the noise. Now on to sleep disorders. If you experience frequent or extreme nightmares due to your anxiety, Pokémon like Munna or Musharna could eat said dreams, getting you a good night's rest. If you experience sleep paralysis, a nocturnal Pokémon, or one with the Insomniac ability, could realize you're having an episode and try to comfort you through it. Such Pokémon would also be good fits for sleepwalkers, as they could follow the person around to ensure they don't get hurt. If you can't fall asleep in the first place, moves like Hypnosis, Grass Whistle, and Sing will help you along. Then, on the other side of the coin, people with disorders that make it hard to stay awake, such as narcolepsy, could have a Pokémon use Worry Seed on them until they get somewhere safe to lie down. Speaking of worrying, let's look at some ways that Pokémon could help folks with anxiety disorders. Some forms of meditation are able to reduce anxiety symptoms. There are plenty of fighting and psychic-type Pokémon that use meditation to boost their stats, and I'm sure they'd be happy to do so at your side, teaching you some of their techniques. Many of said Pokémon can also learn the move Calm Mind, something that trainers with anxiety, ADHD, or OCD could all benefit from. Certain grass types, such as Roselia and Comfey, are known for releasing relaxing fragrances, which could make them a stabilizing presence. Meganium in particular can release a substance that calms aggressive feelings and blunts strong emotions, which would be especially helpful for someone in the manic phase of a bipolar cycle, or a person with anxiety who's having a panic attack. During a panic attack, consider seeking comfort from an Altaria, which are known to wrap their wings around and sing to people. For people with mood and anxiety disorders, Sylveon and the Riolu and Ralts lines are able to sense others' emotions, even those one is trying to suppress. This makes them capable of identifying and then intervening when someone is having a depressive episode or panic attack, no matter how well they're covering it up. Since these Pokémon can recognize everyone's emotions, and not just their trainers, they could also help trainers who struggle to identify others' emotions to do so. For folks who feel a lot of anxiety about the future, Pokémon such as Xatu, Delphox, and Absol can see into it, which could be reassuring to some, but also distressing for others. Absol in particular specializes in foreseeing natural disasters. Someone with PTSD from a previous one might appreciate having an Absol around to assure them that none are coming, or to help execute a plan if one is. Some PTSD service animals are trained to conduct perimeter sweeps, which involves searching a space for intruders and then coming back to assure their handler that there's no one else there. These animals can also be trained to notify their handler that someone's approaching them, so they won't feel like they've been snuck up on. For such tasks, consider a Pokémon from the Patrat or Sentret lines. They're both known for keeping watch, and having the ability Runaway guarantees that they and their trainer will always be able to escape wild Pokémon. Forewarn and Anticipation are also helpful abilities, as they could give their trainer a heads up to any triggering moves the opponent might have. Unfortunately, neither Sentret nor Patrat can have those abilities, and I do worry that while these Pokemon's hypervigilance could be reassuring for some people, it might make others feel even more on edge. If that's the case, maybe they'd prefer a Girafarig. It has two heads, meaning it can still alert you if someone's approaching from behind, and the head on its tail doesn't need to sleep, meaning it's always capable of keeping watch. But, unlike Sentret or Patrat, it isn't obsessed with doing so. Another psychic type that caught my eye was Behem. Not for its potential as a guard, but because of its ability to psychically control others and rewrite their memories. In a triggering situation, it might be able to intervene, assuming control of its trainer long enough to get them out of there. I also bet that some people in the Pokémon world would want BEM to erase certain traumatic memories, although the efficacy and morality of this is definitely up to discussion. One of the most important tasks that a PTSD service dog can learn is the ability to recognize when their handler is approaching panic mode. They do so by sensing the handler's increased heart rate, breath, and blood pressure. It's then the dog's job to alert their handler and start engaging them in exercises to help calm them down. A service dog's ability to alert its handler to such changes can also be used to prevent fainting spells and other medical issues. Some dogs can even alert people with diabetes to their blood sugar levels. These animals primarily rely upon their senses of hearing and smell to catch such warning signs. For hearing-based alerts, Pokémon such as Noibat, Clefable, and Audino have some amazing ears. Audinos are literally based on stethoscopes, making it perfect for anyone who's looking for a cardiac service animal. For alerts that rely upon smelling a symptom, Slurpuff's Pokédex entries highlight its ability to determine someone's mental and physical condition with just a sniff. This could also be helpful for detecting allergens before a trainer can get close enough to have a reaction. Another common service dog task is behavior disruption, and I'll use myself as an example. When I'm nervous, I get the compulsion to scratch at things. Well, I don't always realize I'm doing it. My service dog sure does, and will alert me with a nudge or a lick. Once I'm aware, I can redirect my hands to something else, such as petting her. In Pokémon, the move Lick can cause its target paralysis, which will definitely pause a behavior. Another neat move is Disable, which prevents the target from reusing their last move. Perhaps it could be used to disrupt harmful compulsions. One such compulsion is binge eating, which a Pokémon with the ability Unnerve could help one manage. Unnerve prevents targets from eating or drinking, so trainers might appreciate having their Joltik or Rookity step in before they can give themselves a stomachache. This ability could also be helpful for trainers that are trying to quit substances such as alcohol. On the topic of food, plenty of disabled people have symptoms that are affected by it. For example, folks with type 1 diabetes often keep snacks on them as a tool to balance their blood sugar. The Pokémon Delibird would be helpful for such a trainer, as it's known for carrying around food in its sack. Maybe it could carry around medication too, and give trainers reminders for when they need to take theirs. Chansey and Blissey carry entire eggs around, which can heal those who consume them, making them another good pick. Apparently, these eggs are so delicious that even people who aren't hungry can't help but eat them, which could be beneficial for folks whose medication or symptoms take away their appetite. These eggs have the added bonus of making anyone who consumes them happy, so this line would also be a great match for anyone who struggles with depression. Oh, and the Togepi line has magic happy egg powers too! For folks whose depression is the seasonal affective variety, meaning it's triggered by reduced levels of light during the cold season, a Pokémon that emits light, such as Lantern, Ampharos, Illumise, or Volbeat, could help you fight it off. Some disabled folks require caregivers, who can help them with tasks that they'd struggle to complete alone, such as getting dressed, prepping meals, or managing medication. Some people's caregivers live with them full-time, some visit periodically, and some only come around for specific events such as doctor's appointments. For household tasks, we've seen Mr. Mime perform a ton of chores in the anime, making it an excellent aid. Honestly, most humanoid Pokémon should be capable of the tasks that we've seen Mr. Mime do. I'd like to recommend Golett, as it's based on a golem. In Jewish mythology, rabbis would create these creatures to perform household chores for them. So if Golett is anything like its inspiration, it should know how to use a broom. Minccino is practically a living broom, and they have high standards of cleanliness, so they'd be a great Pokémon for keeping one's space neat. We've seen Pokémon such as Machoke work as movers in the games, so they could definitely help physically disabled trainers transport and put away groceries. To cook said groceries, the elemental monkeys are closely linked with chefs, so they'd probably love to help with meal prep. Then there's Rotom, which could use its heat form to cook meals, its wash form to clear the resulting dishes, and its fan form to keep the kitchen ventilated. Its mow form can go outside and maintain the lawn, I guess. Some disabled folks have difficulty dressing and undressing. Closures such as buttons and zippers can be hard to maneuver if you have stiff fingers. Getting socks and shoes on is difficult if you can't bend over, and not everyone can lift their arms high enough to put on a shirt. If this is what you want your partner to help you with, Then I have the perfect Pokémon for you. British noblemen, regardless of their disability status, used to hire people called valets to dress and tend to their appearance. And these valets were one of the inspirations behind Indeedee. Just check out its Pokédex entries. This Pokémon never leaves its trainer's side. It predicts their actions with its psychic power and takes care of their day-to-day needs. Males will act as valets for those they serve, looking after their every need. Leavanny are also known for their simultaneous love of fashion and caring for others. But due to its lack of fingers, it would probably face the same challenges as a disabled trainer when it comes to getting clothes on and off. Maybe you could work together to design some accessible clothing. For managing doctor's appointments, Slowking have a level of intelligence that's comparable to that of award-winning scientists, and are known for their ability to stay calm in any situation. These appointments can be overwhelming and include a lot of hard-to-decipher doctor speak that Slowking could navigate their trainer through. We've seen in the anime and side games that humans can be affected by the same status conditions as their Pokémon, making me wonder if moves that are used to cure these conditions could also be used on disabled people to alleviate their symptoms. What if moves such as aromatherapy, Heal Bell, or Purify could be used to cure people of migraines and nausea? Moves like Misty Terrain, Magic Coat, and Crafty Shield protect allies from getting status conditions in the first place. So, if you know you're about to be exposed to a potential trigger, a Pokémon could use one of these moves to protect you. The Pokémon Shaymin is able to dissolve toxins that are in the air, so it can clear the air for trainers with respiratory issues. We know that HP restoring moves work on humans as well, so folks who injure easily or have chronic pain could benefit from having a Pokémon with Heal Pulse or Floral Healing at their side. The Knackley line are known to produce healing salts, which seems to be a reference to the real-life use of Epsom salt to treat muscle pain. One of the ways I treat my muscle pain is through electrotherapy. And before you freak out, not all electrotherapy is scary, painful, or coercive, despite that being how media tends to portray it. Electrotherapy involves sending low-level currents through electrodes into people's bodies to stimulate the nerves and muscles there. Pokémon that release low-level currents, such as Elekid, Tynamo, or Pichu, could help to provide those treatments. Maybe you could hook the electrodes up directly to the Pokémon, or skip machines entirely by putting a Joltik directly on the spot you're trying to treat. Electric types could also be used to charge medical devices, such as wheelchairs, speech generators, or hearing aids, meaning you wouldn't have to worry about running out of battery on the bus. We've covered a lot of Pokémon today, but unfortunately, there are some that simply wouldn't make good service animals. Pidove try their best, but are constantly forgetting their training. Slowpoke have extremely delayed reaction times, and Hippopotas summon sandstorms everywhere they go. That just hinders everyone. In the same way that not just any dog, let alone animal, can become a service animal, not just any Pokémon should either. I don't think people realize that the majority of a service animal's training isn't on how to perform a task for their handler, but on how to behave properly in public. Dogs that can't be trained out of being reactive, aggressive, or disruptive will fail out of any sincere service animal program. When people try to pass pets that have these traits off as service animals, it ruins the reputation of service dogs as a whole, and leads to those of us who genuinely have them getting discriminated against and harassed. It doesn't matter if you are also disabled. Your disability doesn't automatically make your dog a service animal, and it harms the disabled community as a whole when you try to pass them off as such. To quote Professor Juniper, "We humans live happily with Pokémon. Living and working together, we complement each other. We help each other to accomplish difficult tasks." It's nice to imagine that in a world where depending on one's pets is so commonplace, having a service animal would be normalized and free from ableist stigmas. Hopefully this video has opened your mind to new ways of interacting with your favorite Pokémon, and gotten you to reconsider some of your own support needs. Disabled people are taught not to expect such support, to see situations where it's offered as the exception and not the rule. But we can imagine worlds where this isn't the case. We can imagine a future for our world where this isn't the case. And for that future to come true, we need non-disabled people to make more of an effort to consider our perspectives. Even within the disabled community, there's such a wide variety of conditions and experiences out there, some of which never get amplified. So it would do us all some good to listen to one another. I'd love to hear from you all about your experiences in the comments below. What would your ideal service Pokémon be? What headcanons do you have? What aspect of your experiences with disability would you like more people to know about? Remember to like and hype up this video, and subscribe if you want to see more like it in the future. To support me in the creation of said videos, check out my Patreon, where as little as $1 a month gets you weekly updates on how projects are going. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye!